My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Did you miss us? We've been gone for, in Damien's case, I think 16, 17 hours, something like that. Was it 6 a.m.?
I think I went to bed at 6 a.m. because unfortunately when you're doing like a late night stream, it really keeps your brain going. And then when you turn off the stream, you're not just going to like jump into bed. No, it doesn't work like that. So I think it was about maybe 5:15 when the stream ended.
Okay. I've heard Rio Ferdinand back in the times when Manchester United were pretty good and we were playing Champions League matches in various parts of Europe, quarterfinals and semi-finals. And he's playing matches until 11 a.m. and then they're getting back from wherever they are in their distant European destination at 3, 4 in the morning, and he can't sleep until 6 a.m. because he's so pumped after a thrilling quarterfinal or semi-final Champions League win. Did you feel like that at 5:15 this morning after watching Casper Ruud winning 3 sets?
Not really. I think like maybe I would have been enjoying the match a little bit more if I wasn't, in that sort of a state. But it was just a tactical error, I would say.
Yes, your tactical error being, this is the match I think I would like to talk about, but that match began at 2 a.m., right?
Yeah, exactly that. I was thinking Muchova Helgo will be quick, and they were. However, the next match wasn't quick. But I mean.
What did you think of that match, by the way? What did you think about Casper Ruud going up a break? I fell asleep during the second set, so I can't talk too much about it. So I'm hoping you're going to fill in the gaps for me. But I know that Ruud won that first set on the tie break, and then obviously second set match. I thought it was going to be tight. It was tight, but fill in the gaps for me. Why and how did Casper Ruud end up winning that?
I think his best part of the match was like the first 8 games. He came out like playing super aggressively. And then at 5-3, he just decides to play like, I don't know, that to an extent that's not possible to maintain. He was just like in a sort of a drill. Like if you gave the guy, 20 balls and you tell him he's got to serve, and then +1 forehand, he's got to slam it as hard as he can. That's how Casper was playing. And then later on, I mean, it became a mess. I think obviously he had touches of quality, the forehand inside in especially. But there were also large chunks of the match where Machac was dominating him a bit more. And just generally, of course, the backhand, either the slice or the topspin, they were looking pretty horrific at times. But it was also a fun encounter. I think it was wild, and that wildness did give it that tiny bit of enjoyment I really needed.
In the end, Ruud's win didn't help the Norwegians win because in the doubles encounter, of which Casper didn't play, by the way. I mean, is that a surprise that he doesn't play the doubles encounter?
Not when you watched through against Machac, because Casper was struggling with his leg in the third set. He got physio treatment. His dad was also massaging on the breaks. And already during the match, there was a lot of talk like, okay, Casper might not play the mix because he's just looking a bit too banged up. And of course, eventually he didn't. But I think if Casper is, fit enough to play, let's say, if he's ready, then Casper is always the good choice there.
And it may have made a difference. I mean, Aikiri and Durasovic, hopefully I'm getting their names right.
Victor.
They're not. Okay.
Sorry. No, I thought you were going to say Victor Durasovic. Yeah. No, I don't know how to pronounce Ulrike's surname. No, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking that they're not likely to be a match for Muchova and Machac, are they? And of course, they proved not to be. I don't know if you caught any of that match. Also, Muchova, in terms of her singles match, you would expect her to win, and she did against Helgo. But fingers crossed. She does feature in both Gill Gross's and my top 10s for the end of the year, which you'll see shooting across the bottom of the screen. I do want to get one or two thoughts from you, but also our audience. So let us know in the live chat, particularly in terms of amongst those 20 nominations that you see below, if there's one that makes you go, and I think there'll be a couple in that 20 nominations that might make you do so. And I think they might both be on my side rather than Gill's. I think a little safer 10 players, but we'll talk about that later on. But I want to forewarn you on that. So anyway, the Czech Republic, or I should say Czechia, I think is the correct nomination determination nowadays, for their win over Norway 2-1. The Germans winning comfortably 3-0 over Brazil. Am I right in thinking Laura Siegmund, therefore, must have won her singles matches against
She did,
Haddad
and she
Maia?
also played the mixed with Putz later. So, I mean, Germany is just such a strong favorite in that group. Now they're going to play China for the first place. But, I mean, yeah. Even if Siegmund loses there, they probably win, right?
Yeah, I mean, Haddad Maia, is that a bad
Two
loss?
losses for Haddad Maia. I mean,
Yeah.
she's not exactly the most consistent player on the planet. I don't think I ever truly think. Okay,
her
yeah,
game though, her
gonna
game
win.
is sort of a bit about consistency. No, really, it shouldn't it be?
Sort of. I don't know, but I mean, it's just the way about her, I guess. But yeah, even if she loses, Germany probably wins.
The GOAT of Carlos Alcaraz, Thiago Montero, going down to Alexander Zverev in straight sets.
The streak is over. 4 top 10 wins in a row.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. And then Germany also winning the doubles, so a 3-0 win for them, with Zverev keeping his powder dry and not required for the doubles, I guess, especially as they'd won already the tie, at least 2-0. Remind me, Damien, why are they playing that third match? Because of goal diff or the rest significance in the group format, right?
What do you mean?
The fact that normally, obviously, in Davis Cup or Billie Jean King Cup, if you're
the mixed, okay, of course, it's for the group table.
Yeah,
some teams in the past, especially in the 2023 edition, which had a bit of a different route. You had 2 group stages, I think, or something like that. Anyway, some teams there, they were trying to still, I don't know, just give their players more rest or something, I suppose, but they actually ended up getting burned. So yeah, I mean, this time no one is really in the first match, the best team is coming out. In the second match, if we're already eliminated or if we're already through, sure, that's when maybe you're going to see some, or simply teams that will be eliminated.
I saw you tweeting earlier about Bencic's return to the tour, getting a reality check today against Jasmine Paolini.
Yeah, I mean, for now, it's kind of obvious that her level won't be, top 10 right away. I think there are still very positive signs for Belinda, but today, Paolini, I mean, you kind of think of her as a player who can drop off in 2025, and she just started it exactly the way she was playing last year, just so free and, I don't know, so intense. It's not really something that Bencic faced from Chloe Paquet, and it's not something that Bencic faced from anyone in Angers.
When, and I'm racing around from various topics today, but also addressing the matches at the same time. When Felix sort of came on the scene, I was going to say burst on the scene, but I think burst that's too strong a word, right?
Depends.
Yeah,
I'm thinking the lower tours for sure, because he was breaking age records at 14, 15. So
yeah. Okay, yeah, no, but I am actually probably thinking a couple of years later when he makes the main tour. I think he did strike me as being a pretty inconsistent player. I still see that, albeit in maybe a little bit lower down the level of inconsistency. So what I'm saying is that, is he up a set and a break, and then he ends up losing that previous match, and then today, he loses the first set to Taylor, and you're thinking, well, yeah, Taylor obviously is having to come from a little bit further back in terms of his preparation. He's a match behind, at least in terms of competition at United Cup. So if you're thinking that Taylor might struggle, it might be more so in the first set. But anyway, he wins the first set, and you're thinking, well, Felix's season is going to go from bad to worse, and it's only just getting underway. And yet somehow he wins that tennis match.
I mean, it's not like Felix hasn't produced some good performances over the last year or so. I mean, most of them were
if you're a resident of Basel, then maybe you think Felix is the GOAT, but
Oh, Felix wasn't playing Basel this year, right? Or
No,
like
I
he
know,
lost
but
early.
okay,
Oh
I'm
no,
talking
actually he lost early. I think he withdrew from Paris. But yeah,
yeah.
I mean, what I'm trying to say is that he's capable of putting in good individual performances. It still doesn't mean like all that much, but he's just come back from an injury, so this is a massive win for him just in terms of that.
True. The US, though, ultimately winning that after Goff, perhaps also giving a reality check for Leylah Fernandez, who I remember that match that Leylah had against, I'm remembering it's only a couple of days ago, but against Donna Vekic. And I predicted Vekic to win that. Like I did a couple of predictions that day. I said Humbert would win in straight sets, and he did. And I was feeling very pleased with myself. But then I also got a reality check by tipping Vekic to win. I did hold back on the tweet, by the way. So I said Humbert in straights and against Stricker. But with the Vekic one, I just left Vekic at winning the match because I didn't feel as confident. And as I watched that match and it got to 4-all, I was already thinking, oh, Donna, you needed to have a lead here to hang on to. I didn't fancy Donna coming back when she was ultimately broken, I think, for the set. And Leylah didn't even face a break point on serve, which I don't know if that says something that Leylah's made an improvement in terms of her serve, or whether Donna just wasn't at the races, or maybe a bit of both. But anyway, Leylah gets a reality check today against the highest ranked player, I guess, in the tournament on the women's side, Coco Gauff. Straight sets loss, and then ultimately Goff and Fritz winning the doubles against Leylah and Felix. I don't know if you've got anything to add to any of those results or matches from today.
Not really. I saw some praise for Fernandez's first performance as well, but I didn't watch it. So I just
did.
was wondering, this is a good spot maybe to catch Coco on the first match of the season.
I think it's
like
a good
similar counter punchy games. It might get a little weird, but yeah, no. I think Coco also won like a crazy number of first points or something like that.
Okay, cool. Nice to see James in the chat. I did mention to James if you wanted to join us, but I did mention it only about 15 minutes before we went live. But then I think I only mentioned it to you about half an hour before we went live as well. It's just a fairly spontaneous show, partly because actually I also want to. I don't know if you've seen some of these numbers and stuff shooting across the bottom of the screen, because I wanted to bring to your attention our choices for the top 10, and not necessarily to get your top 10, especially off the top of your head, but I'm sure there's a couple in there that you would like to probably say, not. Well, first of all, what about Anisimova being in my top 10?
I don't know if I see anything that's like impossible. I
mean, not impossible, but
probably, yeah, she's just not going to be healthy, probably, right, for the entire season.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But does it make sense to kind of like have a wild card pick at 10? Sure. I mean, we like that. And she's one of the players who could do it. Like the same way you could put Bencic in there, in my opinion, and I'd be fine with that too.
Would you really be fine with Bencic?
Yeah. I mean, she's probably not gonna return to a ranking that high at the, literally like, I don't know, half the season or something like that. But maybe, I mean, she could, and in the same way Anisimova, I think she could.
We've both
she stands out. Like, if that's what you want, yes, this is the pick that stands out from both lists.
Is it the one that from both lists you think even more than Iga at 5?
In terms of that, I was just trying to say about the names involved, not exactly about the placement. But yes, I mean, Iga at 5. This is the other thing that stands out. Gill's list, I mean, it's fine. I think all of these players can get there. Probably like 6, 7 of them will. But it's just like you're reading this and you're like, yeah, sure. I mean, nothing crazy, right?
Gill's is mainly sort of 2 or 3 placements away from probably where they are more or less right now. I'm just wondering what I would say is Gill's most controversial. Maybe, but well, I guess Paolini. Yeah, I don't think it's. I think he's kept Paolini in there. It's sort of it's a sort of a movement, and I didn't get Gill's thoughts exactly on this, but probably having Paolini, it's like I think she's going to drop. But she's still going to win enough matches to obviously keep.
Yeah, she's not on your list, right?
No, she's not. So I've sort of gone another step further than that.
Mm-hmm.
But my other one, or another one of mine, and I'll come back to Iga in a second for those of you that are frothing at the mouth in the chat. We'll come back to her in a second. But Mira Andreeva at 6, do you think that's a bit wild?
Does Gill have her at all?
I know he doesn't know.
Okay. well. I mean, you have her over Pegula, Navarro,
Mm.
Muchova, Anisimova, the ones that are like pretty uncertain with injuries, and then Pegula, Navarro, who are kind of like solid but probably won't go, ballistic this season and top the
No.
rankings. So, I mean, I don't hate it. I think it's
Um,
fine.
Gill and I
And with
had
the Paulini thing, by the way, like, I think no one like in their right mind would put her above, but it's actually a pretty nice, like, conversation right now, whether she could stay in the top 10 or even stay higher than 10, like, I don't know, 7, 8.
I think 5 or 6 would be another incredible win. But
It would, yeah. Like that's probably where most people like that's their max for her, right? Like no one is
yeah.
gonna be putting her top 3 next year. But 5, 6, I think most people probably would. I agree though that I would go a little lower. I'm just not sure how much lower.
Actually, I guess my controversies maybe don't end with Iga, but we can talk about Iga at 5. Can you guess why, or suppose why I might be down on Iga a little bit?
I mean, not really. Obviously, I'm not really sure how to get into your mind on this because I'm assuming that you're not expecting any sort of like a change up in her game in these like faster slams, and just expect her to go third, fourth round, and then maybe the focus on the clay is really important. And I don't know. She had some incredible wins in there, but she loses to Osaka, and the 2K points are gone. I mean, it's just one event. I don't know. Probably like something around that.
That's almost enough. I think if she has the same season but doesn't win the French, or even doesn't win Madrid in the French, for example, that's enough
I
to
mean
then.
that this year at least it would still put her at like number 4 probably, right?
Okay, and I probably am kind of saying that. I wonder as well if how she'll deal with the sort of post doping scenario mentally compared to, I know Yannick of course had a similar scenario and yet he's sort of brushed it off pretty cleanly. I don't know whether she'll have any sort of lingerings there. I also wonder if this coaching change, if she wants to make big strides on the hard court, she might have to take a couple of hits, and they might even come in post Australian Open where she has often done so well. I probably wouldn't go as far as to say she's not winning a tournament for another 6 months, but she's not been in a final since Paris. So yeah, and I see that run continuing. But the other thing, oh yeah, Goff at 2. And I have really flipped 3 times on Coco, I think, in terms of being, very big on her, and then finally her sort of justifying that to some extent or a large extent during that North American swing. Then I thought people went too far on really that North American swing. I think there was a few asterisk sounds harsh, but I think there was a few things that occurred in terms of her beating Iga and then ultimately Sabalenka as well in the final of the US Open that probably overestimated things. And yet I think we probably all, including me, maybe went too far in our or my negativity. And I think she was playing the best tennis of her career actually in the winter part in October, November. Gill said, be careful to focus too much on October, November and what happens the following year, if you like. And I understand why he sort of threw caution in my wind, if you like, if that makes sense. But that's probably the other big one, because I think Sabalenka is almost like the least controversial of either of our picks.
Yeah, I mean, Sabalenka at number 1 is the boring pick, but also likely the correct pick. So that's why people will be going for that. I mean, honestly, yeah, there are 4 players here that really stand out to me. Not Kindred, really. Like, I don't think she could really go for number 1 right now. But Goff, Swiatek, Sabalenka, and Rybakina are like probably the only ones you can really choose for number 1. And yeah, then of course Sabalenka is pretty much the normal pick. But we also have to remember that with these like 2025 predictions, like basically the points they have right now, like they don't matter at all, right? They're all going to be dropped by next year. So sometimes maybe we just pay attention a little bit too much to like who's, high in the rankings and they're likely going to stay there. But that doesn't have to be the case. But yeah, I think these 4 players are definitely like candidates for number 1. And then it's kind of down to your personal preference, not even in the sense of being a fan, but just preference of picks.
I have Zheng at 4 and Gil had her at 5. And in a way, we sort of very quickly touched on this. It could be just Zheng wins the French Open, and then that sort of suddenly flips the two, if you like. I've got here a comment from Matthew. If Iga has the same season as last, we start to cement the view that she'll be an all-time great on clay only. I guess we do. It adds another layer to that, but it wouldn't necessarily mean that if then the following year she won 3 slams, I think we would then, you win a couple of slams away from clay, and she's probably done enough for us to stop going on about her just being a clay player only,
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have an opinion on this. Like, yeah, it's definitely, one more year, and eventually there's gonna be that break, but I don't know where.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of, at some point we're really gonna say that US Open was kind of a fluke, because it kind of was for the time being. But she's got so much time, and I do think that when it comes to that US Open, I've already said it before, that like this is an event that completely changes her legacy for the time being. It just like eliminates so many questions that we would have without it. So in context, in a larger context, right now we can see that this is like the most important title of her career, maybe.
Okay, cool. Let's move on. It's good to see some people putting their top 10s. Oh yeah, Schneider was one that got an honorable mention on the show earlier, actually, by the way. She was the one person I think that didn't feature in any. Another one, by the way, that could have got a mention but didn't. We'll come to her, Naomi Osaka, in a minute. But yeah, Schneider was the one that I can see Valon is highlighting here, and yeah, she got an honorable mention from Gill, actually, more than myself, as being that was sort of someone that was very much on his radar but didn't quite make it.
Yeah, when you started showing the lists, I was thinking like, who out of like not, out of these people who you mentioned, like outside of them, whom would I have put in my list? And I was thinking like, if you want to go a little bolder, a little bit more spicy, Schneider is definitely one of the options. Well, Azarenka, not for a top 10, Jake, but she's been pretty solid the last few years, just not playing that many events, not getting too deep in the slams. But, she could easily stay around 20, 30. I'm just not sure. What else would you be looking at? And one of you had Badosa, by the way, right?
Yes, Gill had her at 9.
Okay,
She was on my radar.
I probably have her on my list. But yeah, that's another one that's like not in the top 10 right now. And you can definitely, justify her.
I just also went with Anna Samova. Yes, there's so many questions as to why so many reasons as to why she wouldn't make it. But I was sort of there was a couple of things that I kept coming back to. One was an age, which was also related to trajectory with some of my players and thoughts. There was one or two things about Swiatek as well, which I've already touched on. And then I was also thinking, you know what, I have no problem with going down as far as 40 odd in the world and going, this player could easily be top 10. And that's where, so I wasn't afraid to keep going down the rankings. I did skip Schneider, and maybe I'll pay the price of that. As far as Azarenka's concerned, Jake, probably the three of us have similar thoughts, or in your case, maybe Jake, concerns, is that I just think that she doesn't compensate enough for the things that she's lost from her game in the last 5 or 6 years.
She's definitely a pretty slow mover by now.
Yeah.
Tough for her as well. Like, yeah, just physically the last few seasons.
I just don't see that what she's doing to compensate for that, or she's done this a lot better, or she's picking up this area of her game to, as we've seen some of the other greats, at least I would suggest on the men's side, certainly, but also the women's side have improved parts of their game where they've lost elsewhere. And I don't see enough from Victoria, but Jake, feel free to disagree.
Pretty interesting, actually. Yeah. Like, because it's kind of true. Like, she's just playing the same game, but without that 0.5%. It's not easy to, like, at this stage actually introduce something else. And I don't even know what it would have to be, but that's kind of true that, yeah, I mean, she's just lost some, let's say, punch, and then it gradually goes down.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about similar thoughts. Well, not the same, but similar thoughts with other players on the tour that have been on and I'm watching them going through the preseason training, and I'm thinking, what can they do realistically to? And this wasn't about Vika, because Vika was these players are actually in their mid-20s, and I'm thinking, what can they do to really get them, say, in the top 10, for example, if it's a player sort of ranked 20 or 30 in the world, Who probably springs to mind most? I'm thinking of a player who's sort of 20. Francis Tiafoe. What? Because I want to be realistic as well. It's not like you can just say, "Oh, he needs to do this or needs to do that with his game," if it's just never going to happen. Which by their mid to late 20s probably isn't. And yet, if it's like, say someone like Layla, let's talk about Layla Fernandez. I do think that the serve, which obviously clearly has to be better, and clearly she can't be so vulnerable. But what can she do? Well, maybe there's something, especially with the spot serving. She's never going to be the biggest server on tour, of course, but maybe there's something. Plus, Layla's a bit younger. But when you get to sort of 25, 28 and older, yeah, I think, for example, Pegula, I mean, I don't know what I could, even if you're the best coach in the world, I don't know what you would do with Jessica Pegula to say, right, I'm going to do this to make you a better tennis player.
I mean, it's just micro adjustments at this stage, Work on specific shots in the rally, work on, I don't know, tactics, work on something that, well, you won't just evolve you won't just, have a revolution within your game. Or if you would actually, like, your results would go down even more. Katie Bolter, I don't know. Personally, I don't see it. I just never really viewed her as a top 10-ish player. I know that some people do. I feel like most of them have a British passport.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would probably second that. I would add one-dimensional is too strong, but I'm going somewhere with that. I don't see there being enough elements of her game to make her a sort of regular quarter-finalist at the biggest tournaments, which would need to happen if she was to become a top 10. Can Vekic make the jump? Jake is asking. Actually, I'd like to answer this first and then get your thoughts, Damien. I'm watching her against Layla in the searing heat in Australia, somewhere that she's done pretty well in the past, I know. But I'm watching her in the searing heat against Layla the other day, and it looked more like the end of the season than the beginning of it for Donna. And as I said, I felt as though she needed a lead in that match, and she never got it, and never looked like getting it. So I guess I'm a bit down on Donna's chances. That semi-final against Jasmine, sorry, against Paolini last year, or earlier this year, I should say. That's, I think, could be the moment, because she wins that and she could win the final. I think, in a way, I would think it would have been an maybe even more intriguing final than the one we got, which was quite intriguing. But that may end up being her one and only big chance of winning a Grand Slam. What do you think?
Yeah, I think she's like kind of always in that range. Like, we won't say that Madison Keys won't break, like, has no chance of breaking the top 10 in 2025. We just won't say that. Like, that possibility is always there when you're that good, when you're like this aggressive too, and you can really, fire up for some extended patch. But yeah, it's also a bit of a shame. Of course, I understand why the points aren't there at the Olympics, but that's also something with Vekic, right? That she has another massive result, but it's not going to help her ranking wise.
No, and I wouldn't necessarily think of clay as being, a top surface for her, but she ends up getting to the final there and obviously getting the silver medal. Somebody who's returned, actually, I was going to say returning to the tour, but she's only been away from the tour since October when she got injured against Coco Gauff, I think it was, is, of course, Naomi Osaka. She was sort of the number 10 position, if you like. She was somebody that I could have just gone bold on. In the end, I went for Anisimova, but she was one of the sort of 4 or 5 picks I had in my short list of, okay, this is my bold pick for number 10 in the world. And she was one of the 4 or 5 that could do it. And yeah, what do you think?
Sure. I mean, I don't think she should be a gimme for every list like this. Definitely not. But yeah, I mean, if you include her number 10, as you said, that bold pick, which you are clearly looking for, not everybody does, but you clearly wanted to have that one at least. And yeah, I mean, she's one of the viable contenders for that. I don't know, just kind of like pace of her progress this season was so weird. Anytime we thought that she's so back, then another setback happened. Of course, the first one being the Roland Garros match against Iga, but then there's US Open too, where she has to take that set against Muchova. She doesn't. And I think that Muchova went to the semis. Osaka could have been in the semis, but then it's not like she continues that going forward from New York. she's a very slam-oriented player. Maybe she just peaks for the slams only. But yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's just not the most likely. I probably wouldn't have her in my top 10.
Okay. She was on my list, on my radar. I think, she could have gone on to, well, should have and could have and all that, if as one former tennis player once said. But if she beats Mukova, yeah, I did actually, I think, have her in my semis in my prediction before the US Open, and that sort of
Yeah,
obviously
me
blew
too.
up in the first round, but that could have happened. Then, of
Second
course,
round,
in
I think, right? Wasn't
second
it
round was it?
second round?
Sorry.
I
Yeah, it
think
could
so.
have been, yeah. Then in Beijing as well, I thought, here we go, now we are. And she was, I think, she's healthy and fit. She beats Coco Gauff in a tournament. Is that the one that Coco went on to win? Or was it, she won
She
the
lost in
two,
Wuhan.
she lost in Wuhan and won in Beijing,
Yep.
right? And I think
Yep.
the Beijing match, it was Beijing where she played Osaka, I think. I get the two
Possible.
tournaments confused.
Yeah.
They're both one.
In this case,
Are they
I'm not
both?
sure.
Are they both 1000s on the women's tour? Is Beijing
Yeah,
500?
both 1000s back to back, except Beijing was 2 weeks and Wuhan was 1 week this year.
Yeah. Anyway, there we go. So yeah, I certainly had her on my radar. I'm looking forward to see how that pans out. And as you say, maybe she peaks for the slams, and that might well be enough for her to shoot up the rankings. I want to switch now to the immediate future, which does, of course, include Naomi Osaka, but I want to switch back to the United Cup. And let's have a look at who is in action in the coming 24 hours or less than that, 15 hours or so. What matches should I be keeping an eye on today, as it will be in Australia, Damien?
Well, these are tough questions, but let me think. Oh yeah, Poland starts their campaign against Norway.
Oh, Damien,
I mean, that's the first one that came to mind. But I mean, basically, yes, that's going to be one of them, and I think that only Hurkacz Rud really is enjoyable in there. Of course, Świątek Helgo, yeah, I mean, Malin can get like 3-4 games, but then Hurkacz Rud, to kind of see how the first evidence of Masu and Lendl, working with him, you gotta check it out. First match since, well, basically an injury, as in Paris, he was clearly unfit to play. I think probably my favorite match today is Greece against Kazakhstan. This is the one where they decide who tops the group. And we might get that. Well, in fact, we are pretty likely to get Tsitsipas and Rybakina in that mixed doubles showdown, which would be quite fantastic because Tsitsipas is, of course, the favorite over Shevchenko. And then Sakari against Rybakina. Well, after how they handled Buzas Maneiro, there's a little bit of a contrast there between blowing her off the court and doing whatever Maria Sakari was doing. So I think there's also Argentina, right? No, not Argentina. I mean, Australia is playing, right?
Well, I've got Great Britain against Argentina.
Oh, Argentina. Sorry. Yeah. Argentina against Great Britain. That was the one I meant. Yeah. I mean, this is a bit of a mess, but
Billie Harris.
And actually, this is quite important because Argentina, it was a huge upset. They defeated Australia in the first match. So, I mean, Argentina now has like a great shot to make the quarters. How does it work? No, I don't even know. Oh, the quarters. Yeah, the quarters.
Yeah.
So Argentina now has a pretty good shot. And I mean, Great Britain, if I don't know, maybe. So yeah, this suddenly becomes an interesting tie because at first it seemed that Australia just has to dominate their group.
Yeah, indeed. So Australia losing that obviously puts the cat amongst the pigeons. I'd have no idea how you say that in Spanish, and certainly not in Polish, if you know that expression, Damien, to put the cat amongst the pigeons. It's upset the apple cart. It's do something wild, like the Argentina beating. It's like to scrap all our predictions. I don't know how else to translate into another expression, cat amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, not sure.
Anyway, Australia did exactly that, or Argentina did exactly that by beating Australia. And yeah, Bolter probably beats Podoroskas. No guarantees there. Echeverry probably beats Billie Harris to pick up anything you majorly disagree with, but you can tell that I'm not too convinced about either of those outcomes.
Yeah, maybe Bolter is like the one that I'm more confident about. She was so good at the Beijing King Cup, right? So
will
maybe.
Iga upset Helgo? Do you think Iga might take a set there?
I mean, she might take like 2 games.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Yeah. Who beat Casper? I like the fact that Casper's got a match under his belt. Her catch is obviously, bedding himself into tennis again with a new coaching regime. But also, what was it you said in terms of him playing matches since October? Was it?
I mean, since like Vienna, he only played one match in Paris and was clearly not fit yet with that knee.
So yeah, probably Casper slight favorite then, I guess.
I think that's what it is for the bookies. Do I agree? I'm not sure.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I would just probably say it's really 50-50-ish. We know that Hurkacz has been fit at least since the beginning of like the off-season regime that he did in Florida with Mastu and Lent. So I guess that we kind of have some info that he might be better by now. And Kasper yesterday was, well, he was very tired after these 3 hours. I kind of wonder if this is also something he's struggling with at the beginning of the season, whatever. But all in all, I think that if Hurkacz can just like keep him in that backhand to backhand rally, he can really just beat Kasper pretty easily on a hard court. That's how their rivalry has also gone so far. 2 matches for Kasper on clay and 1 for Hubert on hard courts. Obviously not the biggest sample size.
No, of course they were on a collision course in Estoril until Casper lost his semi to Martinez, and Hubi ends up taking his first clay court title, I think, and ultimately completing the set. Right, I think he did that day by getting a title on all 3 surfaces. Am I right?
Yes, exactly. It was actually his only title of 2024.
Oh, okay. Obviously, very much an injury hit year. And then reverting back to Greece, Kazakhstan. Tsitsipas, how did he do in his first match? He must have won.
He beat Carreño Busta in 3 sets. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Both of these countries beat Spain 2-1. So now it's like strictly between them to decide the winner. It's looking likely that it could be mixed. And I mean, Rybakina, Shevchenko were surprisingly good in their opening match. Like Shevchenko had a horrible time against Carreño Busta in singles, but he shows up in the mixed and they're like really pumped. And they were really going after the female players from Spain. So, like actually, Rybakina, maybe in her case, it's not, on her face, but it's in her shots, She was like really going for it. And then I think that they just suddenly discovered something, that the pair that I didn't even think was going to be played, because Nedovyesov, of course, is still a top 100 doubles player and is actually their team captain. But he plays Shevchenko, and I think that was strictly designed to give them some warm up with each other before the rest of the event. So I think they're counting on that team, and probably they will have to.
China, Germany, am I still on the right day? That is also tonight / tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that is also another one of these matchups where the winner of the whole tie is simply the group winner, because both countries defeated Brazil 3-0. And I mean, but is Laura Zygmunt guaranteed to win? Definitely not. So Zverev probably also not, but in a less obviously explicit manner. So yeah, I mean, it's not super obvious, but they would have to upset Zverev at least one time, and that's kind of the problem here.
The favorite for the tournament right now, is it still the US, I guess?
The US and Poland were priced pretty much the same before the event, I think. Personally, I think that no one was talking, or in the odds that I was checking, I also saw that no one is talking about Italy. And I think that's like a pretty comical mistake, because that team is super strong. And to me, these were the third favorites. Whereas I think the bookies had Greece and Kazakhstan there, which is kind of weird because they have them, it's the same group. But they had Greece and Kazakhstan there, and I think Greece was maybe treated as like a very strong team when it's probably not, unless Sakari wakes up. And also simply I just believe that Italy is very underrated. They have the best mixed team in the event. They won a slam together. They actually have some experience playing with each other. They have Paolini, who is just destroying the team competitions. And I mean, Cobolli is like, middle of the pack from the singles players in this tournament, more or less. So
I guess it's because of the non-Yannick Sinner factor. I guess that's the reason maybe people have gone to sleep on Italy a bit, right?
Maybe. I think that's.
I mean,
that's
they've won the last 2 Davis Cups back to back, and they've won a Billie Jean King Cup and been in the final of the other in the last 2 years, or the last 2
It would be
additional.
kind of funny if they also win the United Cup, but to me, yeah, they're the third favorites behind US and Poland. And actually, we have not seen the Polish team yet, and the US today, because of Brits losing to FAA.
Yeah,
they actually had it kind of tough. So I think it's very open for these 3 countries mostly.
Are there any tournaments or matches or players that maybe I haven't mentioned that are going to be playing tonight, stroke tomorrow morning, that you'd like to touch on?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, definitely, I know what I kind of like want to watch, but it's probably not.
Go on, tell us what that is, and then I want to ask you a question about Brisbane.
No, I mean, first match in Brisbane today I want to watch is Bonzi playing against Tabilo, because I actually just realized that Benjamin Bonzi is still on that win streak, or like win streak with 1 loss. But when he went 14-1 in 3 weeks in Challengers, and then of course wins Mets, he's ATP Tour. He's made an ATP Tour title, and I think it's easy to forget he's on a run like this because the new season has come, and we don't remember that literally his last event was Mets. So I think that's what I'm going to be watching. But is it like something exceptional? Passavaredi qualified for Brisbane, which I think was pretty good. But for the most part, with the big stories in Brisbane, I think we're waiting for even the day after, right, when Kyrgios will make his return.
Oh yes.
And also today, Djokovic and Kyrgios will play doubles if someone.
Oh, okay.
To see that.
Okay, that is happening that's happening today, as it would be in Australia. Am I right, therefore, in understanding the schedules of Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner? They are not playing any warm-ups before Australia. Am I right? Australian Open.
Yeah, they already did that last year. Obviously, we're satisfied with the results, so no reason to. I think it's been the case for last year. Even 3 out of the top 4 seeds weren't playing anything, right?
Novak played United Cup. Carlos and Yannick didn't play any warm-up.
And Daniil didn't either, and I think Daniil isn't playing anything again.
Okay.
So, right? I mean, he's not in Brisbane, definitely. He's not in
Hong
Kong.
But I didn't realize Daniil didn't play a warm-up last year. Okay.
Yeah, he also didn't play a warm-up. So
I remember him playing Adelaide the year before, but yeah.
Clearly it's working for them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he was in the final. But yeah, that is a strategy, and I'm not surprised by it. I wouldn't be surprised as well if Carlos takes not the same, but a slightly similar attitude towards the US Open come this September. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him in Canada, is what I'm saying. Anyway, that is for September. We are in season 2025, albeit in year 2024. But I think that is it. I think we've ticked all the boxes. Somebody asking me, and I've seen Sue Barker get mentioned 2 or 3 times. I don't know why in the live chat. Someone asked me if I've ever met her. No, I don't think I have. In fact, I know I haven't met her. Maybe I've been within a few meters of her, but I don't think that counts. Eager for Poland, a 50-50 against anyone. I think that's saying... I don't know what that's saying, actually. Do let us know, Trishan, if you can add on that one a few comments about...
Iga is like starting the matchup with 1 point, except, Bukova in the second group match. So it won't be that obvious.
So Iga is going to be playing against Mukova in... Okay, that's cool. That's exciting.
Yeah, that's I think it's on the 1st of January.
I'd be even more excited if that had just come now, just catching Iga a little colder. But, well, who knows? I
think that would be like enough advantage already.
Yeah, but I know that we obviously think about Iga in Australia, particularly some of the quicker courts. Where are Poland playing, by the way, these matches?
Sydney, the quicker
okay.
one, yeah.
Yeah, right. But I don't see Mukova being somebody who would be suited to a quick court either. What's the furthest she's ever gone in Australia? She got to the semis there, maybe?
Yeah, she actually has really good fast court records too.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, she's just good everywhere is essentially the morale of this story. And she's also like one of the few players from not maybe the very top of the rankings where anytime she's playing Świątek, Sabalenka, we say, yeah, I mean, she actually brings something different and she could potentially win this match. Of course, she just beat Arena against Iga. She's also had pretty entertaining matches for the most part. So that's why we are so excited about that clash.
Random question. Are you ready? It's not related to Jake's comment. Random question, though, Damien. You ready?
Yeah.
Fast court, okay, fast hard court, and grass, okay. I want you to think of a player who is really good and got good results and suited. I was just thinking of Mukova actually to some extent, in that I wouldn't associate her with a hard court that was quick, but her results suggest otherwise. But then I would say, you know what, on the grass, her guile and her slice and all different facets to her game. I want you to name me a player that sort of fits into this category of fast hard, for example. Forget it. Grass, amazing. Or the other way around.
I mean, well, this is not going to be good, but the first player that came to mind with that, good on fast hard court or grass and then nothing, was Lukasz Lachko. Well,
Yeah, that's not going to ring too many bells with too many players.
It is what it is. I mean, he retired just like 2 years ago, but yeah, basically he was just insane on grass, carpet, and all that stuff. I don't know. I mean, what's the opposition to that? Like slow hard court and clay? So someone has to
I
be
mean,
good at
obviously
both.
Indian Wells and then French Open, I guess.
I think there were a few players who like did very well at Indian Wells, but horrible in other like
For
hard
example?
courts. Del Bonis maybe.
Okay.
So yeah, it makes sense, right? Like someone who likes clay doesn't really enjoy hard courts at all, but likes the court profile of Indian Wells.
Yeah. All right. Thought I'd get a random question out there. It just came to my mind. All right, cool. Let's wrap things up. Do hit like and subscribe and all that other jazz. You'll get reminded about that in a few seconds as well. Raducanu is good on fast courts and on grass. I think Trishan is a fan of Raducanu, by the way, so you might see a few more comments about Emma. When is she? She's probably playing Auckland, I think, isn't she? Like she has done in the past. I have nothing really to say on Emma Raducanu because I don't think there's been any storylines associated with. Oh, she's playing Montgomery. Okay. Montgomery, yes, interesting. On a hard court, that's probably not too bad for Emma. But we'll see.
Not horrible. I mean, hopefully
Emma,
she just plays an actual schedule this year.
Yeah, the maybe it's not that stacked. If Emma's seeded 6 in Auckland, then
yeah, I mean Brisbane is so much stronger, and you have like 16 seeds there, and I think around like half the top 30 are there.
Okay. There we go. All right. Yes, indeed. Emma has been unlucky with injuries, that's for sure, Dan, and fingers crossed she can stay healthy in 2025. Okay, listen, we are done ticking pretty much all the boxes I could think of before we started this show, so we'll wrap things up there. Yeah, that's that. I need to just find the button now because there's a few things that have changed on here to end the stream. Damien is awake. Well done for getting through till 5:15 this morning. Congrats on that. Fingers crossed. We won't have to put Damien through his misery tonight, and he can. I just thought of you when you said you had your eyes on that Bonzi match because I looked at the start time and it is 2 a.m.
I mean, I don't know honestly if I'm going to be able to watch it because I just slept so little today that it might like.
Oh, how did tennis go this morning?
I
saw a picture on social media. And it's a free court, right?
It's a free court, but it's pretty far away. But sometimes we meet for like these like garden parties. I don't know how to call them. And they're very close to that place. So that's why we always try to go beforehand. My opponent was a little hungover, and this was probably our most lopsided match. But yeah, in 3 sets, I lost 1 game. So,
there we go. Okay, cool. Job done. Speak to you all soon. Enjoy the tennis. We'll be back in the next 24, 48 hours with something, no doubt. Yeah, hopefully we'll get another show in before the end of the year. And for everyone else, you know the drill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.